We got some updates on Leaf injuries, Marchand trolling Leaf fans, and we got a game tonight. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Moruti. Thank you for making us your daily listen, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in North America. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You know what my bet's going to be tonight, Dave?
What's that?
My bet tonight will be Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Anytime point. 1+ point tonight for Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who is now on milestone watch. Just needs to collect 1 point tonight to tie Tom Kurvers for the only Maple Leafs defenseman in Leafs history to both have 10-game point streaks. I think it happens tonight. I like OEL to get a point.
I mean, he's been one of the catalysts on that blue line. He's probably, like, if we're being honest here, he's probably been the best defenseman this season.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
like,
for sure.
Without question.
Yeah, since Tanev went down, he's been elevated up to the top pair. He's on the top pair again. He did have, like, a scare. He didn't finish the game in Pittsburgh. I think we kind of forgot to even mention it because Pittsburgh was just such a wild night, but he didn't finish the game. He's okay. Sounds like he's going to play tonight in Florida. All good. Wasn't serious, maybe because it was 5-1, just for precautionary reasons. They decided to hold him out in Pitt, but he'll be ready to go tonight. And he's been the best defenseman and has really taken on a much larger role also, and didn't expect that for Oliver Ekman-Larsson this year. You know, he's one of the very few players on this team, and I mean few, who are actually earning their contracts this year. It's him, Tavares, I guess Joseph Woll lately, only in the last couple of weeks. Outside of that, well, Troy Stecher, I guess. Troy Stetcher's played pretty well.
Yeah.
But outside of those, couple of guys, man, not a whole lot of Maple Leafs earning their game checks every week.
Well, and we talked about, like, the contract inefficiencies and all that stuff. Like, it's if you're wondering why things have not gone so well this year, considering what happened, last year versus this year, the strength, the blue line was probably one of their biggest strengths. That just hasn't been up to snuff, that's problematic. It also doesn't help that there's guys out with injuries, right? Defensemen that you expected to play big minutes for you that are not in the lineup.
Yeah.
So guys are playing out of position, and that impacts it a bit. But I think there's at least maybe some solace in the fact that you do have a few players that are stepping up. But yeah, you're definitely going to need more.
Did you see the list of guys who he's chasing down for this, that he's been chasing down, I guess, when it comes to this record? Like, it really goes to show that the Maple Leafs have not had a lot of good blue liners over the course of their existence. I mean, Tom Kurvers, first of all, is the guy who he's chasing down at 10 games. But, like, Cody Franzen is on this list of longest point streaks for a Maple Leafs defenseman. McCabe, Turnbull, I guess, but, like, right now tied with Cody Franzen. I didn't expect to see that, as Franzen being 1 game off of being the longest point streak in Maple Leafs history. And then, McCabe and Ian Turnbull also all with 9. So with another point tonight, he can join Tom Kurvers and rewrite the Maple Leafs record books. So let's get to some more updates from practice, Dave, over the last couple of days. So some injury updates, and not very good ones. Anthony Stolarz, Brandon Carlo. What are we hearing, Dave?
Well, we'll start with Stolarz because this is just a simple, no real improvement. Haven't seen him, haven't heard from him, don't even know what's going on. So this doesn't sound like a very promising situation with Stolarz. If he like that, whatever it is, it's not getting any better, and haven't heard anything about potentially surgery, which at least last time we knew it was a knee thing. We knew it needed surgery, and there was somewhat of a timeline. This one just is again very vague. The Brandon Carlo one is probably the more frustrating one because there was apparently he had a setback, went back to Toronto yesterday, or if I'm going to make this timeline more definitive, he went back on Monday, and today Berube said he's going to be out for an extended period of time. Looks like potentially surgery for Carlo. So we went from this thing being day to day. The day that they said he was not going to play against the Blackhawks, that was day to day. Yeah. Then it was IR. Now it's potentially surgery.
Yeah. That's very on par for the Maple Leafs, though, isn't it? It's kind of what we've come to know with this team. Day to day means nothing with this group. Absolutely nothing. It could mean a whole lot more. And obviously, with Brandon Carlo, it does. Now, look, Carlo hadn't been playing very good hockey prior to the injury. We came on the show a couple weeks ago and, talked about how poorly he had been playing, him and Riley, how they need to be separated for a period of time and see if they can fix on some things. But, I mean, Brandon Carlo is still, a hole that's going to have to be filled on this roster. Like this team isn't made up of a bunch of, 6'3", 200-pound defensive defensemen who can give you top 4 minutes, right? Like they're not built that way, especially with Chris Tanev out as well. So someone's going to have to step up. Now, Troy Stecher played well and stepped up in Pittsburgh, and he's going to have an opportunity to kind of fill in also in the top 6 again, or in the top 4 again, alongside Jake McCabe, see if he can, continue what he did in Pitt. But at some point, Brandon Carlo's got to get back for this team, man, because as much as I again do want to give Stetcher's flowers and appreciate, what he was able to do, the guy's in his 30s and he's never, hung around as like an everyday top 4 defenseman at any point in his career. It'd be tough to expect for him all of a sudden to turn into that guy, at this point. So they're going to need him at some point, or they might need to make a trade possibly to fill in that position if things start to go downhill for Stecher. But with him out for an extended period of time, it's not good. It's not good for the Leafs. They need that guy at some point.
They do. They need their blue line back healthy. They need these guys because, like, again, you're right. Like, how long are you going to be able to rely on Troy Stecher to play the way he's playing, right? And this is like probably one of the bigger. I mean, obviously the Panthers are not at full strength, but like we've seen, they've been teams that like Pittsburgh, you kind of expected because they haven't been playing very well. But when you go up and you play some of the better teams, like they got a game against Carolina coming up soon, like this blue line is going to be tested pretty bad. And now if Brandon Carlo's out for, obviously, if surgery is being talked about and he's going to be out for an extended period, like, I'm not saying they should go out and get a defenseman because I'm not in favor of getting moving assets because I don't think you're trading a 1-for-1 for a defenseman right now. But it is going to be a tough battle for the Leafs to have to try to keep afloat without both these defensemen. It's not easy. I mean, yeah, I get it. Other teams have injuries, but this is going to be a tough stretch for them.
Yeah, well, it's going to be, but they got to buy in. They got to dig in, and they did that in Pittsburgh. But like this is kind of what the Leafs tend to do, though. Also, like when you finally doubt the team and think that they're done, and the injuries are piling up. There's no way this ragtag bunch of blue liners could possibly go and beat Boston or possibly beat Tampa or possibly beat Florida. Somehow, they kind of pull it together and they get it done. that I will at least credit this Leafs group for. They have been able to do that in the past. This year, this year's been a little different. They haven't quite answered the bell as often, I think, as typical. But they did again Saturday night. I went into that game when I saw that, they clearly didn't have Carlo, they didn't have Tanev, and then last second Simon Benoit gets a healthy scratch. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you've got Troy Stetcher, a waiver claim in your top four, and then you got both Mermies and Myers playing, together on the third pair. It's like, this isn't going to go well against Sid, Gino, and that group. But they played well, so hopefully they can continue that tonight against the Florida Panthers. Let's take a break and let's kind of dive into the matchup. We'll dive into those Brad Marchand comments. Is he the voice of reason or the ultimate Leafs troll? We'll debate that next here at the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting on FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best way, when the NFL starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. You got live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player props update as guys heat up, and you can even bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more to keep you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Today's episode is also brought to you by DripDrop. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, my energy, my mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using DripDrop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power, no matter what my day looks like. DripDrop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I like using DripDrop as part of my daily routine. I'll mix up a packet in the morning before I leave for work and during that midday slump. It actually tastes pretty good. Hydration has become a non-negotiable for me also. DripDrop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly just better overall. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to DripDrop.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. That's DripDrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard and keep your body and mind performing at their best with DripDrop. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Moruti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes free and available wherever you get a podcast. That's Apple, that's Spotify, and you can also find us on YouTube as well. Maple Leafs with a game tonight. They continue the road trip in Florida. And, both teams severely injured, I guess we'll say, shorthanded. Barkov and Makachuk still out for the Florida Panthers. The Maple Leafs without Tanev, Carlo, no Stolarz. But the forwards seemingly getting healthy now for the Maple Leafs, and that's obviously a good thing. But both teams with those injuries have stumbled out of the gate, and both squads on the outside looking in when you're looking at a playoff spot. And, of course, good old Brad Marchand just had to get his 2 cents in while everyone in the city is just on fire when it comes to this Maple Leaf squad, who, by the way, is in last place again in the Atlantic Division. This is what he had to say about the Maple Leafs and their playoff future.
They're obviously still a very good contending team.
In Toronto, when you sit out of the playoff spot at this point, the world is ending. But here, I get the impression you guys are just kind of par for the course and confidence in yourself.
I mean, what are we, 25 games in? If you think that your playoff dreams are done 25 games in, you have bigger problems. I know they don't think that in the room. It's just obviously with the media attention and the fan support that they have in Toronto, things get blown way out of proportion up there. But yeah, they definitely don't think that in the room. What are they, 4 points out of the playoff spot? Or if people are thinking they're in a playoff spot for the season, they got to find a new job.
What do you think, Dave? Voice of reason or the ultimate troll?
Oh, Bradley, you're such the he's the ultimate. He plays the game better than I think anybody right now. Like
Like him and John Cooper, those are the two biggest trolls in like the recent Leafs history, I think.
I've never seen an opponent be so complimentary of a team. Now, like I think there's some truth to what he is saying. Like I don't think he's just trolling completely, but I do think he understands. He mentions it every time. The way that the media talks and the way that everything is kind of blown. I would say out of proportion because it's not always, but I would say it's elevated, right? Because the question, if you didn't hear the question, was over with the Leafs, it's almost like end of the world, but here it's not really that much. And he's just like, well, what are we 25 games in? Like, there's truth to that, but yeah, I've never seen a player so complimentary to an opponent than Brad Marchand.
Yeah, I'll steal a phrase from Brian Hayes when he reacted to this. He said, right message, but wrong messenger. Like, no one wants to hear from Brad Marchand talking about how he believes the Maple Leafs aren't out of it. It's like, yeah, no duh, but you shut your mouth because we don't want to hear it from you, pal. But it's true. Like, obviously, the Maple Leafs, yes, they're dead last in the Eastern Conference again with 25 points after Buffalo got another win yesterday. But guess who's tied with them with 25 points? The Florida Panthers. Both teams are in dead last. So he's saying this about the Maple Leafs, but like he's kind of also saying it about their group as well, the Florida Panthers. Like both teams sitting there with 25 points. Now, Florida has a game in hand, so in terms of win percentage, they're above the Maple Leafs in the standings. But both of them, 6 points out of a playoff spot. I mean, we're now into December, so the clock's ticking for them to start turning around. But I mean, you look at the teams above them that are in a playoff spot currently: Philadelphia Flyers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Montreal Canadiens, who have been stumbling of late. The Boston Bruins are in a playoff spot right now. Like, do you anticipate all four of those teams that I just mentioned to continue to play the way that they have early on in the season and make a push and make the playoffs? Maybe a couple of them. But a couple of them I expect to fall out, and those two teams, Florida, Toronto, those are the squads that I expect to get it going. Once this team gets healthy and once the Panthers get healthy, get going and make a late push, and probably at the end of the day will find themselves in the postseason.
Like that's really the thing. Like we talked to. I think I brought this up 2 shows ago or something like that. But they asked Mike Sullivan in New York about how, if you're not in the playoffs by American Thanksgiving, there's a good chance you're not going to make it. And he's like, I've been on many teams where that's in the opposite, where we're out of it, but then you find a way to get in. Like, I just think it's totally different this year just because it's so close, the race right now. Like, there are teams pulling away, like Tampa, like right now, I don't like they're putting themselves in a prime position to have first in the Atlantic. Like they're Rothschild on people, and like
they won 7 in a row. Tampa.
And they don't have Hedman, they don't have McDonough, they don't have Braden Point. The injury thing can be right for certain reasons, but it can also be that your core is good enough, your support, your depth is good enough that it kind of negates it. Yeah, the fact that Tampa's doing what they're doing right now, it's ridiculous. It's also just unfair. Like, not unfair, but just, ridiculous that they're able to do this. But like, I don't know. There are teams right now that I'm still weary on if they can continue and maintain their pace. Like, can Detroit keep this up for as long,
Yeah.
Can Montreal, they got absolutely demolished by Colorado, though. Who hasn't gotten demolished by Colorado? But like, there you start to see the teams that are kind of in that spot, and it's a lot of pressure to think that you're going to be able to hold that spot or try to hold that spot from December until the end of till April.
Yeah.
Especially with so many teams close to you.
Totally. And actually, technically, that's a wild card spot. If you look at didn't even realize that, like, Montreal, to get into a playoff spot, one of these Atlantic spots, yeah, it is only 4 points for the Maple Leafs and Panthers. Montreal with 29 points. Game in hand for them. And Boston, actually, Toronto has 2 games in hand on Boston, I think it is. Yeah, and Florida has 3 games in hand on Boston, and there's only a 5 points difference between those two. So very, very possible that the Maple Leafs and Florida Panthers can still get their acts together and figure this thing out. It's crazy, man. Like, literally between 2nd and 8th in the Atlantic Division. So that's being the basement of the Atlantic and hosting a playoff game in round 1, having home ice. 5 points separates them, and we're into December. Like, it's so tight, so close. Everyone is still within reach. That's the thing. Like, even the Sabres, like, as bad as the Sabres are or have been this year, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot right now. They're very much within reach, like, very much within reach. So, yeah, I think he's not wrong when Brad Marchand says if you think that this team's out of it because they're, a hand, like, literally less than a handful of
he
points
said
out.
4 points out. Like,
yeah, it's like they're not out of it. Like, they believe that they can still get in there and go on a bit of a run if they could use that game against Pittsburgh as the catalyst for a turning point in the season. Get a winning against Florida, right? You pick up 2 points against Florida, all of a sudden now you're 2 points up on Florida, and 2 points closer to Boston and Montreal. Within like 2 weeks, if this team goes on a decent stretch here, they can easily be in a playoff spot, right? Like, that's the thing. Everything's so close. All it takes is really 2 wins for Toronto and a couple of losses for Montreal or Boston, and all of a sudden the Leafs, they're in prime position. They're right there. So yeah, they're dead last, and at times the hockey hasn't looked great for the Buds, but it hasn't looked great, and they're still right there. I think, again, if you want to go back to Brewer-based glass half full approach, I think that's it. Yeah, dead last. That stinks. That sucks. 8th in the Atlantic. That's not a good stat. But you're only 4 points out of a playoff spot despite that. And you haven't played your best hockey. And you've had a rash of injuries. The back half of the season, law of averages should say that you should play better and stay healthier, hopefully. And if that happens, Toronto should have no problems getting into playoffs. Like, on paper, this is very clearly a playoff team. They've underperformed to this point, but you're starting to see some guys start to get going here and find their legs and find their way. And, if that happens, they should start winning with some more regularity, we'll say. And tonight's game against Florida, that'll be a good start. It's a big step. It's a team that's you're chasing in the standings. You got to try and pick off points, try and get it done in regulation as well, so you don't give up any points to the Panthers. So let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll preview that game here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
today's show is brought to you by DUER. I'm so excited about these new DUER jeans that I have. They've pretty much changed my life in many ways because it's getting the performance and the style all in one. DUER jeans have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They're antibacterial, meaning your jeans stay fresh longer so you can wear them more and wash them less. And they're made with cool backs that regulate your body temperature and wicks moisture. So it keeps you cool and comfortable as temperature change. And DUER jeans feel stretchy without looking stretchy. It's almost like you're wearing your favorite pair of joggers, but they look like you're dressed to go out on the town. DUER combines classic jeanwear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds, designed to look great and stay comfortable all day no matter what you're doing. DUER are pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing. They invented the original performance denim. Simply put, DUER makes the world's most comfortable pants without having to sacrifice style. And you can check them out in Toronto. You can go check out DUER at 44 Ossington Avenue. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift. Mention our promo code Locked On Toronto in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online, DUER.ca/Locked On Toronto for 15% off. That's DUER.ca/Locked On Toronto.
The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano and Dave Moruti. We got a game tonight. The Maple Leafs continue their road trip tonight in Sunrise, taking on the Florida Panthers. And let's start things off, Dave. Let's get through this. The game preview, and you're taking a look at both teams here, both tied with 25 points, last place in the Eastern Conference. Leafs 11-11-3, Panthers 12-11-1. But the Panthers have played a little bit better, like that 5-on-5 expected goals. You know, they should have had some better fate this year. But the goaltending hasn't been as strong as it's been in years past. At 3.17 goals against per game, the penalty kill has not been elite, and neither has the power play. So both teams struggling on the special teams here, struggling to keep pucks out of the back of the net. And injuries, obviously, being a big part of probably both of those things. So, two pretty even clubs, I would say, at this point in the season, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, again, they've both kind of had similar struggles. Maybe the Panthers have been a bit better defensively than the Leafs, and the Leafs have been the better offensive team. But like, you look at the Panthers, like it's kind of, they've really had the up and down year where they've had some really decent wins, but that's some brutal losses. And like the Leafs, it's been more so like it's been a grind to get to their wins. But I think, you know, these two teams, because of their recent history, like I'm expecting this game to be quite chippy. I'm expecting Florida is going to want to play physical.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want the Leafs to feel good about themselves, considering, you know, where they are in the standings and all that. So I'm expecting Florida to say, look, we know how to beat these guys. We've done it the last couple of years. And I'm expecting this team to be uber aggressive against Toronto.
Yeah, they've got to be, and they'll be all over Toronto. The forecheck will be there. They'll try and use their speed and their size and the skill, obviously, to beat Toronto, and they know that they can. They've done it many times before, including last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and a couple of years before that also in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I'm taking a look at their schedule and kind of how they've been playing lately. They've had 6 games in a row. This will be a 7th straight game against non-playoff seeded opponents. And actually New Jersey's a playoff seeded opponent, but outside one, I guess, in the last 7 games. And they did win that game 1-0, but just a .500 record against those teams. You look at their last 3 losses. They lost to Calgary the other night, 5-3. They lost to Philly, 4-2. And the Edmonton Oilers, they lost 6-3 to them with a Nashville win in between those 3 games. So they haven't been playing particularly well, I guess you could say. They've allowed 3 goals or more in 4 straight games. So, yeah, I think Toronto, hopefully they can muster up some offense here, because Florida's been giving up, you know, a decent amount of goals lately. So we'll see. That's something that they're going to have to try and get done tonight. Let's take a look at the lineup that the Maple Leafs will be icing tonight. Not too different than the one that they iced the other night in Pittsburgh. You will have Nyes, Matthews, and Domi on the top line. Cowan, Tavares, and Nylander on the second line. Joshua, Nick Waugh, and Bobby McMahon as that third line. Hopefully they can pick up where they left off in Pittsburgh. Stevie Laurent, Scott Laughton, and Nick Robertson as your fourth line. And defensively, Riley and OEL as your top pair. McCabe and Stetcher continues to play in the top 4 next to him as your second pair. And then Benoit checks back from his time off, and he'll be alongside Phil Myers. Joseph Woll, the expected starter for tonight's game, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the Benoit for memories. That makes sense. You know, you're hoping that with the more aggressive forechecking style that Florida has, that you're hoping that Benoit is kind of ready to get himself back to what he's supposed to be, and in a better. You know, now he's on the third pairing. That Benoit Myers pairing will make me a little nervous when they're out there. I'm not gonna lie. They haven't exactly had good games together, so. That's like they're a pairing that I'm sure Florida is going to want to eye and pick on a lot. I had a question for you though. Like, as much like people keep bringing this up to me, the idea of Scott Laughton as the 4C.
Yeah.
Do you think? And I think it's they're not wrong. I think there should be a situation where him and Wah maybe eventually flip, or like I think they're not getting enough out of Scott Laughton because of the how he is being deployed.
See, I thought you were going to go somewhere else.
Or him. Or I've heard people say put him on the wing. I'm like, well, then who are you going to put center?
Yeah, that's what I've heard is put him up on the wing, like maybe like flip him and Domi, like something like that, right? Or put Lawrence, in the middle.
I wouldn't hate trying that.
Yeah, right. Like that's where I thought you were gonna go. Like try Lawton on the wing, on Matthews' wing. Maybe he can be the guy to go and fish for pucks, dig for pucks, go to the net type thing. I mean, maybe, but I also think that we just saw Nicola Waugh have one of his best games as a Maple Leaf, right? So I think like Joshua Waugh McMahon, they look fantastic in Pittsburgh. So possibly at some point you could see that happen, but I don't think tonight's the time to make that switch. You finally saw some chemistry from that third line. I wouldn't want to break that up. So maybe in the future, if they go in a stretch of games where it's not working with Joshua Waugh and McMahon, okay, perhaps you flip those two, but definitely not for tonight.
No, not for tonight. I do think down the road though, because clearly Michelli is out of favor right now with Berube.
Yes.
Another game where he scratched. Domi, like it could just be a simple flip Domi and Lawton, like as you said. Like I wouldn't mind trying that because I just find that Lawton, like I see him play and I feel like there's more there for him. There is more for him to give in, and you get another defensively minded player on that top line because Dome, like I think it could be a case where if Domi doesn't pick his game up, that would be a natural thing to do, is to give Lawton more opportunities. I think he's earned it, but I guess they really want him more down the middle, which I can understand. But I feel like he's getting such a bad rap. People are giving him a bad rap for that trade, and I'm like, he's not being deployed properly. Like he can only do what he can in the situation he's in.
Yeah, but they brought him in to be a bottom six player, right? They didn't bring him in to be a top six guy. So yeah, we'll see. I think right now I'm okay with the way it is down the middle, but of course, if things continue to go south, you got to mix things up, and whether that's moving Lawton up to 3C or moving him into the top six on the wing, Berube's got to try different things, and either of those two, would be welcomed if things continue to go south. All right, let's take a look at the Florida Panthers projected lineup for tonight's game, and it's vastly different than what we typically know when it comes to Florida Panthers, especially when we watch them in playoff hockey. But top line, Mackie Samoskevich, Anton Lundell, and Brad Marchand, which I'm pretty sure is like typically their third line.
I was going to say, that was their third line from the playoffs.
Yeah, that's their third line in the playoffs, which is very good on a third line, is now their top line with all the injuries that they have. You got Jesper Boquist, Evan Rodriguez, and Sam Reinhart as your second line. Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett, and AJ Greer as your third line. Noah Gregor, Luke Cunnin, and Joey Devine as your fourth line. They've got Forsling, Ekblad, Mikkola with Seth Jones, Balinskis, Jeff Petrie, and then I would imagine that Officer Bob, Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah, he is confirmed to start tonight.
Yes, is going to get the start. Obviously, we know the injuries to Barkov and to Kachuk, and Luosterainen's also out with injury. But that forward group, I mean, it looks very bleak compared to what we know of what they are. And I guess that's a reason why this team, unfortunately, is, joined with the Maple Leafs in the basement of the East.
Yeah, and like this is where the Leafs have to say, yes, you can look at that lineup on paper and say it does not look the same at the same strength as what we've come to see and expect, but they're going to work their tails off.
Yep.
You can't you have to be ready, foot on the gas as soon as that game goes, because, how many times did AJ Greer beat you in the playoffs? Samoskevich, where some people like, I have no idea who this guy is.
Yep.
Pretty good player for them, right? Like, on paper, this team it's always been like that for them. And then you go and you play them, and it's like, okay, no, they're actually like a pain in the rear to play against. And look, I remember like people were saying, "Oh, are they going to have to get rid of Evan Rodriguez because they don't have the cap space?" Boy, I'm sure they're glad they kept him around because they would have. I mean, look, like Sam Bennett would be their second line center probably in that regard, but like after that, it would get pretty bleak considering.
Yeah. But they've always find a way to lock up their guys. Always find a way to get that done.
Yep.
All right, players to watch for tonight's game. Dave, will start with the Florida Panthers, and I think there's only one guy that we gotta key in on, and he's the one who made some noise when when the Maple Leafs media rolled into town yesterday, and that's Bradley Marchand. I mean, he's been a Leaf killer his entire career, right? And there's a reason why a lot of Leaf fans wanted him this past summer, because if you can't beat him, join him type of thing, and wanted Brad Marchand to come to Toronto, but obviously didn't sign that long-term extension in Florida that'll keep him as a Panther until he's 43 years old. Ridiculous contract. But in his career, man, he's had a lot of success against the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's got 21 goals, 58 points in 59 games against Toronto, and he's going to want to back up the words that he had yesterday. So I'm expecting Brad Marchand to be a factor tonight, as per usual.
I would very much expect it. Like it's crazy that when he was brought in last year, he was kind of like that one piece to help put the Panthers on top, and now he's become like kind of the straw that stirs the drink for them. And like, I just hate how much of a natural fit he is with that team. It makes me sick. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not even the things he does while he's playing; it's the extracurricular stuff, right? Like, remember when him and Marner were going at it when he was in Boston, where I think he was going to tell Marner, like, I'm coming after you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's a small guy, but he's
a pest, man. He's a pest.
Yeah.
He is a pest. He's the ultimate troll in the NHL, and we're getting a full dose of that this week with the Leafs taking on Marchand's Florida Panthers. Locked on player to watch for the Maple Leafs, Dave.
Well, it's a guy looking to join the record books, right? Oliver Ekman-Larsson, OEL. I think there's a good chance he does do it tonight. He's found even just an assist, but he's just finding ways to drive play from that blue line. One of the few guys that is bringing that offense from the blue line, because him and Riley have been doing it, but I think it's just natural for him. It just feels like he's playing more free to how his comfort level, and like, doesn't matter if he's had to play the left side, the right side, right? Whether he's getting those power play opportunities or not, he's just finding ways to be productive.
Yep, he's been consistent, and he's been the best blue liner the Maple Leafs have had this year, and I hope he gets it, man. I hope he gets the record tonight with a point, tying Tom Curvers with the only two defensemen in Leafs history to record at least 1 point in 10 straight games. All right, Dave. Keys to the game for the Maple Leafs. Keys to victory. What do you think? What do you got?
Move the damn puck. Do not find a way to break the cycle. Find a way to get out of your zone, because Florida likes to heavy check, likes to forecheck, likes to keep you pressed in your own zone, wants you to make mistakes, capitalize on turnovers. The Leafs can't get stuck making those blunders and trying to get the puck out of the zone. They got, even if it's a chip out, take the pressure off your guys. Don't spend long times in your own zone, because this Leafs team has struggled with this defensive coverage because they've been out for long shifts and guys get out of position way too easily.
Yeah, completely agree. Got to up the physicality as well. We know that this team's going to be physical, along the boards, in front of the net, on both sides of the ice. It's a physical team. They're all over you, and Toronto's got to make sure that they are prepared to answer the bell. Right? Got to clear out the net in front for Joseph Woll. You got to make life difficult for Sergei Bobrovsky. You got to win some puck battles behind the net, right? And you got to go out there and impose your will. Let's get Dakota Joshua with another early open ice check like he did in Pittsburgh, set the tone tonight in Florida as well. So up the physicality or match the physicality that the Florida Panthers are going to be giving you tonight, and generate more chances as the final key. I mean, Dave, we continually discuss how the Maple Leafs are being outshot and outchanced. This is an opportunity for them to go in and flip that narrative, flip that script. I think they're going to have to do it to get the win tonight because, again, just like Toronto, two teams at the bottom of the standings, but two teams that know how to win games, right? They've won a lot of games over the last few years. I know that their big boys, Kachuk and Barkov, not there, but Sam Reinhart, he can still score. He can still generate, right? Same thing with Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand. I mean, they've got a bunch of guys who can definitely bury the biscuit. Verhaeghe seems to always come up big for the Florida Panthers, right? Rodriguez, we talked about a little bit. So make sure that they're generating enough, a lot of chances. And a big way to do that, Dave, spend some more time in the offensive zone. They got to spend way more time in the O zone. They spend way too much time in their own end. And like a lot of those things you talk about, moving the puck, the physicality, that could lead to more O zone time and more chances in the offensive end of things. And that'll give you a better chance to win, man. That really will. We'll give this team a better shot to win and climb out of the basement. It's so funny. For years, this was like a marquee matchup of the two beasts of the East. And now we're looking at it, and you've got the last and second last place Panthers and Leafs. It's a battle of the Eastern Conference basement dwellers tonight. But it should be a good game. It should be a good game. And I'm excited to see if the Leafs can carry over that momentum and success from Pittsburgh and carry it into tonight in Florida. So we shall see. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morisuti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow to break down Leafs and Panthers. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Leafs, go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.